Gap fill play. Double hammers on the weekly. How big is a gap? That's a okay, all right, so that is a $50 gap. Okay, so market 50% of the gap.
So that's what I'm trying to learn is what do you do when you have the big gaps like this?
So the first thing I do,
I'm in some politics.
First thing I do is I mark the 50% of the gap, because that would be my well, depending how big it is. So like if it's a $100 gap, if it's like a $100 gap, then 50% obviously $50 range. Then I know there's gonna be price targets between that, right? Like within that range. The next thing that I do after marking the 50%, I mark my previous wicks, and I go on the higher time frame first. When we go to like the 3, perfect. Look at the 3 month. If you mark this wick right here on the 3 month, quarterly pivot, and obviously you can go to the 6 month and the 12 month as well. I'm just starting at the 3 month quarterly pivot. Okay, now look how many price targets you have. You went from 0 to 3, right? So that's three pivots. And everybody, this is the importance of marking your previous wicks. Now go to the monthly. What else do we have? We have one right here. That's the same thing. No, that's not before. Monthly pivot. All right, and we have pivot right here. Monthly pivot. Boom. Now I'm gonna go to weekly pivot. Mark your weeklies. Okay. But yeah, so you see how what I did was I marked my previous wicks. So now I have potential price target. I went from this big gap from here all the way to here. Now I have price targets in between. So 451, that's a quarterly pivot, 457. And also if you mark this up with your pivot points as well, let me go to that 130 minute. Now you have even more price targets. You have 448 R3, 451, you have 457, 457.01, 458. Does that make sense?
Yes. So would you get into this play?
So I don't like large gaps. I don't play large gaps personally because I don't like I don't like being TTO'd in this range because it could stop, it could hit 50% and then pull back. And then that's it, right? It could hit the 0.618 of the gap and then pull back. Now, based off the higher time frame analysis, usually the higher time frame analysis will tell you whether or not it's actually going to go through or whether it's going to follow through or not. Because of how large the gap is, I don't like being in a play where you can be confident that the gap will get filled, but how long is it going to take to get filled? I gave the example last week with Meta. Meta is in the gap, or Meta. Actually, Meta is a great example right now. Meta is in the gap, right? So if I were to mark this, let me go to the daily. You see how, and this is why I'm like, and like I said, this is just personal preference. But you see how Meta has this large gap all the way to $323, right? And so what we did was Meta hit, what did we hit? We hit a high of 275, 276, and then it TTO'd. Now, I know, personally, there's a level there, whether it's a weekly price target, whether it's a Fibonacci level that we hit and we retraced. But then the question that I'm asking myself,
because the shit rejected.
Exactly, right? But then the question that I ask myself is, how much or how long are you gonna TTO for until you want to go back into the gap? right? And I don't know if you're gonna take a week, whether or not you're gonna take 2 weeks, whether you're not gonna take a month. Every play is different. In the case of NVIDIA said, I'm only gonna TTO for 3 days and we going back up every single time, right? At most. You get what I'm saying? NVIDIA said, we only giving you 3 days and that's it, and we going back up. Like with
okay, so this is great information, because I look at those big gaps and, oh, look at that. Reality, I was in Meta and
we don't know when it's going to get filled.
Yeah, and you don't know when it's going to get filled, and this goes back into the notion of price discovery, right? Because right now we're in this gap, so we're in an imbalance. At any point in time, sellers can come in and say like, okay, this is where we're gonna this is where we're gonna hit this resistance, and then how long are they going to be accumulating that position before taking it back up? You don't know, and that's why it depends on the strength of the sector. It depends on the strength of the stock, what's happening fundamentally. Because in NVIDIA's case, like what I said, NVIDIA says 3 days going back up. Meta will be like, no, we'll TTO for 2 weeks and then go back up, right? So it really depends. Yeah, so it really depends on what the stock itself is doing, and that's why I personally don't like playing large gaps, because when you want to retrace while you're in that gap, how long are you going to retrace for until you want to come back up? And do I have enough time for you to fulfill that retracement? Because with these large gaps, you might need 6 months. You get what I'm saying? You might need 6 months with this. So if I have 6 months, then I'm chilling.
I was in Meta and it expired last Friday.
Exactly. With Meta, with this, how much, with $50 left in this gap, though, you may need 3 to 6 months for if you want the completion. You get what I'm saying?
All right.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful.
Great question, Martha. Great.